If he had not been thinking of other things, he might have noticed the woman on the other side of the street, a squat, toad-like figure in a frosty dark green Lourdes cloak, who gave a start of surprise when she saw him sauntering along, hustled across the street through the traffic and got on his tail. She was expert at what she was doing, and when he went into the newish apartment house on the Odeonsplatz, she didn't go near the door to verify the address, but waited on the far side of the square until he came out. Then she tailed him back to the Vier Jahreszeiten, took a taxi back to her flat, and put in a long-distance call to the Metropole Hotel on Lake Como.
Welcome to the James Bond Complex. My name is Matt.
I'm Edgar.
We are a James Bond podcast where we cover the entire James Bond phenomenon from Fleming to film and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
And today, Edgar, I think we're doing a very, very special book.
A very special book indeed, an important book. This is a turning point in James Bond's life.
Yeah.
A big one.
It's we're at book 11 right now.
We are indeed.
Yeah, that's it. There's not much left.
There is not much. Well, keep in mind, we're recording this on the last Saturday of September. I remember us teasing on Twitter at the end of 2017 that we had started work. So, we've been recording for almost a year at this point, even though we've only been officially a product for about 7 or 8 months now. So, yeah, we've been talking about Fleming for about 10, 11 months at this point. And he wrote 14 books. So.
Yeah. I set the mood with a little bit of Christmas ornament. I posted a picture on Instagram. You're more than welcome to have a look at it.
Take a look at it.
I'm losing my English at Tabarnouche. Let me start with a brief synopsis.
We haven't given the title of the book.
Oh, yeah. It's on a Majesty Secret Service.
Small details.
Perfectly reasonable. It's a book that introduces us to a very special female character.
Absolutely. One of the most important female characters of the entire series.
Yeah, and involves two of the most important events in 007's life.
In the span of 10 pages.
Yeah. His wedding and the murder of his bride.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'll give you a brief synopsis because I know you haven't read the book.
I never do.
Yeah, you never do.
I don't know how I get through these episodes.
Yeah, I know, and you seem to know all of them. It's like
I don't know how you get through the movie episodes.
I know, I never watched them. I don't have a TV. James Bond, tired of hunting down the remnants of Spectre and the ghost of Ernst Stavro Blofeld, is on the verge of quitting the Secret Service. He even wrote a first draft of his resignation letter before leaving for his yearly pilgrimage to Royal-les-Eaux and the tomb of Vesperlin when he meets up with Contessa Tracy Teresa de Vicenzo. Tracy is a young woman leading a life on the edge. After recently losing her husband and her daughter, Bond saves her from a bet that she made with no money by assuming her losses. Tracy repays Bond by making love to the secret agent. The following day, while spying on the near-suicidal woman, Bond is captured and brought to Corsican mobster Marc-Ange Draco. The mobster is in fact Tracy's father and thinks that her burgeoning relationship with 007 might be exactly what she needs to get her life back on track. Draco offers a dowry of £1 million to convince Bond of marrying Teresa. Bond declines, but still Marc-Ange offers his resources to 007 since he still plans to continue seeing his daughter. James Bond finally gets a lead on Blofeld's location. He is in Switzerland under the assumed identity of Comte Balthazar de Blochon. In order to finally put an end to Spectre, 007 recruits the help of Sable Basilic and the College of Arms. It turns out that to legitimize his claim on the title, Blofeld requires final authentication. Under the guise of Sir Hilary Bray, 007 infiltrates Piz Gloria, an isolated alpine compound built on top of a mountain that supposedly offers a new medical treatment against allergies. 10 beautiful English girls are under the care of Irma Bunt, the Count's brutish henchwoman. While investigating the operation, Bond seduces Ruby, a young chicken farmer, that gives him details regarding the other clients as well as a hint of Blofeld's true plot. He hypnotizes the young woman. Blofeld starts to suspect that Hilary Bray is not who he says he is when Campbell, a colleague of 007, almost exposes the secret agent. Bond grabs a few supplies, a list of the clinic's clients, and makes his escape on ski on Christmas Eve. After escaping, grenades, henchwomen, avalanches, and a train, 007 arrives at the nearby village, completely exhausted. It looks as if Spectre might capture and kill the secret agent, but salvation comes in the form of Tracy. The Contessa followed Bond to Piz Gloria. Fearing for her lover's safety, the couple manages to escape Spectre agents. Completely in awe of Tracy, Bond realized that he not only is she one of the most wonderful women he's ever met, he actually proposes, she accepts. But before there can be a wedding, Spectre needs to be destroyed. After deducing that Blofeld has created a Manchurian candidates armed with lethal biological weapons that he plans that have the potential to crush England's agriculture, M and Bond recruit the help of 007's future father-in-law Marc-Ange Draco to take out Blofeld. By helicopter, Draco and his men invade Piz Gloria and take care of the operation. Meanwhile, Bond chases Blofeld down the mountain, but loses the arch-villain when a grenade blows up in his face. Spectre still defeated, Bond marries Tracy. Everything is perfect. That is until Blofeld takes his final revenge on Bond and kills his wife. And that is On Her Majesty's Secret Service in a mouthful, and quite a mouthful.
Extra wide mouthful.
Yeah, I mean, wow. That's the biggest synopsis.
I took a nap. You're going to have to read it again. I wasn't paying attention.
I'm not reading that again. The book starts, interestingly enough, there's two details that I need to bring up. And I'm not even going to bring up the fact that it's in Waialezo, but it takes place a year after Thunderball.
Yeah, that took me off guard a little bit as well. Fleming has no problem allowing the passage of time to be felt in these books. Even in The Spy Who Loved Me, there was allusion to the Thunderball case, although it wasn't a year ago necessarily.
It was a year ago.
It was a year ago?
That's my point. This takes place in September. In October of the same year, The Spy Who Loved Me happens.
Now, either this is a bold statement, either that is Fleming not paying attention to his own timeline, which I have great difficulty believing given how detail-oriented he is as a researcher and a writer, but possible.
I think it still fits. I don't think it's a...
Or a month after the events of this book, he's like, yeah, let's shack up with a little 22-year-old.
Because it starts in early September. By the end of
That's true. It ends in Christmas or after New Year.
Yeah, but there's a gap. There's a gap between him meeting Tracy and then it picks up in November.
So theoretically, The Spy Who Loved Me could have happened. And honestly, The Spy Who Loved Me, at least the part where James Bond is introduced and where he has action to do in that story, it's not very long. It's a night.
It's in October.
It's a night.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, he has the mission in Toronto, and then he goes to, and after that, he probably comes back to England.
So it does fit, and not a detail I picked up on, to be perfectly honest with you, but yeah, it does fit. I'm guessing the other detail, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that, yes, we return to Royal-les-Eaux. Maybe that's why you were thinking of Casino Royale. And a brief but nice little mention of Vesper's grave. But
there's a... I don't know, it's not meta, but there's a quality to he meets the woman that he's going to marry at the same spot he met the first woman in the book.
He was going to propose to,
yeah, and then he fell in love with. So there's a quality there in that I find.
Like George Lucas would say in explaining it rhymes. It's poetry. It rhymes.
That's poetry. It rhymes. Yes,
I do like the start of this book where he is observing. Now we're going to get to the film in the next episode, our next recording session. So it's I'm trying my best to not compare how the chronology of the events, the sequential order of the events in the book to the film, because the same things happen, but not in the same order. I do like how they happen in the book. It makes a lot of sense, I find.
Can I say something about book to film?
No, you may not.
It was hard for me to write the synopsis. I wrote my notes. I wrote the synopsis before watching the movie, and I only finished it this morning before we started recording because I want to insulate my thoughts on the book as best as I could, because book and film are so similar.
Yeah, this is another From Russia with Love.
Yes.
This is another, to an extent, Casino Royale. To an extent, Casino Royale. This is not a Diamonds Are Forever. This is not a Moonraker, where it's easy talking about one and not thinking of the other. In the case of Diamonds, in the case of Moonraker. In this case, it's really tough. I think you did a wise thing to write your synopsis prior to revisiting the film. Not that the film is very different, but you might want to get those subtleties out of the way and distinguish them.
I wanted to have the purest image of the book in my mind. I wanted to experience, because I had read the book once before. This is my second time. And I listened to the audiobook version done by David Tennant and
Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, Doctor Who. He's not bad. As Bond, he's not my favorite, but he's a character actor, so all the ancillary character like Sybil Vasilik, the hench people,
or the old fogey he meets before Basil, Sable Basilic, because he meets somebody else in the other room before, his superior, who's a real bookworm pertaining to genealogy.
Yeah, all those characters he sounds great as, but when he's narrating, the thing that I kind of liked, but it was hard to listen to his presentation, because I listened to it mostly in the subway in very loud environments. So he's always speaking like this, and then Bond, and it's captivating, but you need to be in an area where you can actually listen to it. But yeah, if I once I discuss my cast list using only the Bond actors that have read those books, he's not going to be my Bond. But he was good still, but he's not my favorite.
How is his Tracy?
Unmemorable. Most of them are not very good with the lady parts. That sounds wrong. The female parts. That sounds even worse.
You can't win them all. Yeah. So basically, Bond is observing. So Bond knows why he's there and who he's looking at. We, as the readers, don't know yet why he's there or who he is observing. This is related in flashbacks for all intents and purposes. So Bond saves this woman from drowning. She's basically suicidal. She is living with a malaise, an acidae, I think, as some people say. I think even Draco himself might use the word acidae.
That's something I always forget. It's a brief mention, but they mentioned the Count, but they also mentioned that she had a daughter.
I didn't, much like you, this was only the second time I read this book, and perhaps like you, my first reading, it wasn't last week, it was, God knows when. Completely forgot about that. That really added a completely different dimension to the character, I felt. And it's funny, we don't want to talk about the movie. This is the book review. There's that one moment in the movie where Draco is relating the story of Tracy, and he says something like, she did things to spite me. And then he goes on, and I'm like, I'm wondering if they thought about including the child in that scene. And they said, you know what, that's a little rough. It's a little rough.
It's a little bit much for 1969.
But certainly as far as the book concerns, it's incredibly tragic. And I felt that added... it's one of those things, like, is it a good thing just to use tragedy to add depth to a character? Maybe yes, maybe no. That's maybe a conversation for another podcast. But I felt it added a level of depth and a real sadness to the character of Tracy. If she's living on the edge as she does, at least at the start of this book, And then that revelation...
She's depressed.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's she doesn't... Bond is worried about, the crying ones are the worst. She doesn't really cry. She's very unemotional. And I think that's... The funny thing is, that's actually what worries Bond. She's not a crier. Because, not another crier. Jesus. She doesn't cry. And that's actually what worries him. I like that little touch where he recognizes she's obviously elle est pas dans son assiette. She's not herself. Well, I shouldn't say that because he doesn't know her, but she's not what he would expect a sad person to behave like. This is a very different breed of sadness, and he recognizes that. I do like how that's presented.
There's a kinship in that because Bond doesn't cry.
That's true, and they both recently lost someone. Bond, the woman he would have wed, and Tracy, her child.
Yeah, that's the thing with the brief mention of the timeline. I think it's been almost like 10 years since Disney.
You think so? I don't know. I have no sense of... You're good with these details, not me. If you quiz me, I would have said Casino Royale happened like 3.5 years ago. You think it's 10? Wow. Well, for some reason in my mind, these stories happen in like a 5-year span, which could be completely stupid. I don't know.
The other people have done better studies of the timeline, but I'm assuming it's about 10 years. I always saw it as a year per book. Okay. I mean, sometimes it takes a long time to recuperate because it gets.
That's true, and then they comment on the paperwork in certain books, and I'm feeling bored. I haven't been on a mission in like 6 months. I'm like 6 months, bruh. How long do these stories take place?
In my mind, he's nearing 40.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
That's not too bad. I mean, but in the books, he's supposed to retire by 45. So he's and at the start of the book, he's very contemplative. At first. He's on the beach. The first sequence, he's on the beach and he's looking at young children. He's having like reminiscence.
Yeah. We hear his mother speak. Actually, you know, don't bring this. You're gonna get sand in the whatever. That's very. Again, this is a different book. It's a different book. I like it. I would like the reasons why it's different. I think it works.
And he's nostalgic for like a second, and then he realizes that he's being nostalgic, and he says, "No," and he starts like. Bitching about all the people and like he's fighting his own childhood, which is fitting for the character.
It's fitting for the character. I think that works on two levels. The first level is in the immediate, in the present. He poo-poos the nostalgia because he's James Bond. He doesn't do that stuff. It works in the future because this is also the book where he marries. So he's getting older. Yes. He's appreciating different things about life. It's not from page 1 to page 200 and whatever of that stuff, but those seeds are planted throughout the book.
Puts an idea in the mind of the reader without knowing it. It's just like they're speckled. I don't even know. Like honestly, one day I'm gonna read all those books I have at home about Fleming. I'm curious about his process of if he wrote a synopsis and followed it beat by beat, or if he just writes a story and it moves along, kind of like Quentin Tarantino moves because he doesn't have an outline. He just goes blah, blah, blah.
That would be quite something if it was the latter, because these stories are incredibly varied, diverse, and you really do see... I feel like we've brought this up several episodes in a row, so I feel like a broken record, but this development of character, this increasingly humane side of what, for all intents and purposes, is a killing machine.
It's a blunt instrument.
Yeah, so it's again, he's opening up, despite himself being nostalgic,
The humanity starts leaking in.
Well, immediately after saving Tracy, they're accosted by more unknown people who were actually watching Bond as he was watching Tracy. So these two people have been there for a while. A boat comes up and they're being taken to an unknown location. And this is where Bond starts thinking back about the past 24 hours, thereabouts. And the first time he comes to notice Tracy is when he's driving, and so is she, and she really burned some rubber.
She's driving. I wrote it down. Zagato Spider. It's a pretty car. Apparently, the convertible. There were only 847 cars built, so it's a very exclusive
car.
Yeah,
limited.
very, very limited. So, and the way they describe it looks, and just with the name Zagato spider,
That's cool.
it sounds like a sexy car. So I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not even a car person, but the way I imagine it is, well, I saw pictures later on, but it is a sexy car, actually.
Yeah, no doubt.
Then
he wants to chase her, a flirtatious chase, but she's so adept, and she has the better vehicle to sort of zigzag in little towns and bumpy roads that she completely blows him. He eats her dust, essentially. But lo and behold, they're going to the same hotel. They're going to the same casino hotel.
Royal Les
Eaux, yeah. So
they're going to the same casino.
That's true. That's true. He even says that he starts, speaking of nostalgia, he even briefly, there's like a half a line of, oh yes, that adventure that I did here with Le Chiffre. So I don't know why I didn't pick up on that, even though it's like written black. That did not hit me.
Well, like I said, the image of the movie is one that's hard to get out of the brain. Maybe,
yeah. So, and that's where he finds out he knows some people there, and that's how he finds out that
she made some bad bets.
Yeah, and he finds out who she is.
Yeah,
the Countess Teresa di Vicenzo. It's a nice name.
It's a nice name. It's not her birth name. We'll find out later. But so she makes some ill-advised bets, loses. Bond is, I don't really like. He covers her bet, but I mean,
it's very I mean, we know why he's doing it. He's interested in her. He thinks she's interesting, but I can see that scene play out in the book. I'm like, nobody's. What do you? Oh, your mind was elsewhere. We're partners tonight. Like, get out of here, man.
And the way she's described, and you found out later that she's half French, actually. She's Bond.
Yep.
And I think Fleming started casting in his mind. Was Brigitte Bardot known because that's the name that I've always heard in regards to alternate ideas for
either
casting.
That or what's her face? Not Isabelle Huppert, but the Cray in Repulsion, Roman Polanski's Repulsion. She's the blonde that's in her hotel apartment. She sees like hands coming out of the wall and stuff like that. I can't remember what her name is.
But anyway, I think he had Brigitte Bardot in mind when he wrote that. But yeah, she loses. Bond covers her depth, I guess. Says, "Oh, we're playing together." Who is it?
Catherine Deneuve.
Oh yeah, that makes even more sense. Yeah, sure.
She would have been born in 1943, though. She would have been in her very early 20s. Very early 20s.
Yeah, very.
It could be wrong.
Could be wrong. But it's a nice. Physically, she would have fit the description.
You've seen some of those old videos?
I've seen even from the 90s.
She's aged well, let's say.
She's a very attractive woman. She loses and she repays her debt to Bond with the only thing she has to bargain with, body.
A body.
But even he makes love to her, and it's
a little cold. She's not very responsive. They make love a second time, don't they? And it's more passionate.
Yeah, some of the stuff she says is like, wow, man, you're one screwed up lady. See, some of the things that she says, like, kind of abuse me, do whatever you want to me.
Yeah. Treat me like a sex toy, basically. For all intents and purposes. Which again, and it's one of those things where it's shocking to read. I can only imagine what that must have been reading that back in the day when it was published. These days it feels like anything goes. But still, it's quite telling that. I guess it says a lot about Bond too. Where old Bond, such a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. But when the woman he's about to have sex with tells him that, he's like, You okay? You all right there, girl? You want to talk about this a little bit? Like, it does say something about Bond that he finds that a little odd,
Yeah.
Because he ravages everything and everybody, and here's a woman that's basically saying ravage me, and he's like, whoa, sister.
I'm not. Yeah, it even shocks Bond, who's like
not much of a prude.
No, he's like, okay, lady, calmez-vous là. But nevertheless, we cut back to the boat. Bond gets brought to
a funny place. I reread the description of this place because I felt I had missed a line and I didn't know where I was anymore. But no, I was where we thought I are, and I still don't know. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. You want to take it away?
No, go. Keep going.
Well, the way I liken it to, it's like a mobile home, but that also has like an office space. This thing must be huge. This thing must be humongous. But it's essentially a big truck with multiple rooms in it. One of them being this office for Marc-Ange Draco, where we finally get to meet Marc-Ange Draco. And I had to reread it again. Like, are we still in the truck? Are we not? No, we're still in the truck, and they're going down a corridor with multiple doors. It's like, is this thing like the Predator alien ship? Or
it's kind of like not Dukes of Hazzard, the other 80s show with a talking car, Knight Rider, where you ram into the truck and there's like more.
Optimus Prime. Oh, it's the telephone booth from Doctor Who.
Yes.
What is that thing called?
The TARDIS.
The TARDIS. So yeah, it's the TARDIS.
Second Doctor Who reference in this episode.
There you go.
Are we doing a Doctor Who complex?
Doctor Who complex is coming soon. Doctor Who complex?
Doctor Who.
Yeah, so we're basically in a big ass truck.
Yep. And Marc-Ange is the funny, paternal, Bond mentor figure of this book. Yeah. He's
the Kerembe.
Yeah, he's our third or fourth iteration of the same character, I guess.
Mathis.
Yeah.
Kerembe.
Mathis is younger. He's more contemporary, but in the film version, they
age him a little.
They age him a little bit. He's charming, but you never forget that he's a gangster.
It's true. It's true, and he does relate a little bit of his own backstory about Capoue. He's a Capoue, right? That's what they call that, the head of the Union Corse. And he's a bit of a devil. He's a bit of a devil. He's no angel, and he's done some dirty work, and he admits to having done some dirty work. He doesn't hide, doesn't shy away from it. But under the present circumstances, he's certainly. We're taken by Draco, just as Draco is taken by Bond to an extent. He relates the fact that Tracy has philandered a little bit around, most notably with the gentleman with whom she had a child. But Bond's behavior seems to have won Draco over.
Takes care of... and I think that deep down, every father eventually starts wanting somebody to take over for them in a way.
I got to retire. I'm too old for this.
Yeah, they want somebody who's going to take care of the little girl in a way. So I think that's what he's looking.
A little bit desperate.
Yeah, and he's.
You paid my daughter's gambling debt. Please marry her. That's basically what this amounts to, for all intents and purposes. But it is a good scene. There's a good dialogue between the two, and they seem to be getting along enough. And Bond seems to like him quite too. There's a line about the smile, because Bond doesn't know where he is yet. And then he gets into the room with Marc-Ange Draco, and Draco turns around, says something very affably, very politely, cheerfully, and Bond sort of immediately thinks, oh, this guy's not that bad. Like, even Bond is sort of smitten by him.
Charmer.
Yeah. He charms the boxers off of Bond.
Yeah. And he knows that Bond's a spy. He knows all about him. I think there's a... Yeah, I mean,
he got the information that morning, I think, which I think is kind of cool. Like he got his men to investigate throughout the night, and then by that morning, I can't remember what time it is when this meeting happens, but earlier that morning, he got the file on James Bond, so he knows exactly who he is.
Yeah, he makes an offer for a dowry of £1 million, I think, but Bond refuses. He doesn't need the money. But yeah, Marcus tells him, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And that offer sets up the death of his daughter.
Yep.
So it's kind of, when you think.
Well, you can't know that. I mean, I understand the point, but it's like it's very long term. It's like there's no way of really knowing that.
And this is where he makes some phone, he offers the resources, and it takes a few phone calls and he knows that through his contacts that Blofeld is living under the assumed name of Comte de Bluchamp. He's in Switzerland, and that's as much as they know for now. But that's the first lead they have in over a year.
Yeah, which is saying something.
There's nothing.
I can't remember. Is it called Operation Bedlam in the book? Because I know there's a Corona. Or they change it from Bedlam to Corona?
Yeah, the Bedlam operation, if I understood correctly, is just the portion of Bond infiltrating Piz Gloria, I think.
No, that's Corona.
That's Corona?
Yeah.
I know I saw Bedlam in the book, but now it's getting fuzzy because I saw the movie last night.
Messed everything up now.
Yeah, nonsense Osage. If I see it in my notes, I'll mention it. Now he meets Griffon. They have all these names, and I'm like,
weird names in this book.
Are those names or are those titles? Because Sable Basilic in the
sounds like a title.
It sounds like it. I think he says the Sable Basilic. Hilary Bray in the movie. I hate doing this like in the movie.
Is Sable Basilic in the movie?
He says that.
Oh, I never noticed that.
There's even a sign that says Sable Basilic. I'm like, that's a title? Oh, okay. These little details.
But that can't be a title in the book. Bond calls him Sable Basilic.
I know. So
it's weird.
It's weird.
But there's somebody that shows up before Sable. Well, not that shows up, but Bond meets someone else before. And, I mean, the chapter doesn't do anything for the overall plot, I feel, but it's a funny little chapter where he's meeting, like, Sable's superior, so to speak, or the one with more experience. And this guy is like, he's so into this genealogy stuff. It's like, but see here, you have 3 Besants and this and this and that. And like Bond is like, yeah,
I think that's Griffon.
Okay.
Griffon. I don't know, man. Like, just there are so many, and at the end, like the image of the movie takes over for me. But there's like I know there's a little comp, and Devin Tennant plays all of them. They all sound like nibbish nerds.
Well, the Griffon certainly sounds like a nerd. I mean, he's very, very fun. And Bond is just like, I'm here for another reason. And every time he tries to cut in to explain why he's here, Griffon just goes, yes, but you could be related to Bond Street and so and so and such. Pay attention. Now, Bond's like, just kind of going to shut up already? And
yeah, we also there's a brief mention of Bond's new secretary, 37, 22, 35. I mean, Mary Goodnight.
Mary Goodnight. They have a good relationship, by the way. It's a very fun, flirtatious. It's a very Bond Moneypenny-ish relationship.
It's much more Moneypenny-ish than anything they've done in the
book. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like what I associate as the Moneypenny character is not Moneypenny in the book. It's
Mary Goodnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's fun. I like. We don't see her that much. A little bit at the start, a little bit near the end, but for the short amount of time she has in the book, I fell in love with her. I'd love to have her as my colleague, and whatever might happen after.
Your Bond girl. That's where we finally learned the motto of the Bond family: "The world is not enough."
Yes,
which is going to be brought back.
We'll talk about that later on in a few decades.
Yeah, well, eventually.
Well, we'll mention it in the next episode, but briefly, you know.
And so Bond is now starting to make his planning his assault.
His Christmas holiday.
His Christmas holiday. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
He needs to convince M a little bit. M's a little dubious. He's not entirely convinced of it, which is funny because for whatever reason, when we get to that chapter and M needs a little bit of convincing, it suddenly dawned on me, like, I'm loving this book so far, but this is a completely preposterous plot. What the F are you talking about, pretending to be a genealogist going up to Piz Gloria?
And he studies. I mean...
it's fun,
but
it's ridiculous.
When he's just talking to... but it's funny. I mean, there are so many like side characters. It's kind of silly, but it's a little bit long to get to Piz Gloria because I guess he must have taken a class on genealogy or something in Fleming. But
there's a little bit of info dumping. I go back to that term you used when we talked about the diamonds. It's a little info dump-ish, but more interesting than the diamonds. Or not?
No. So, just brought
Maybe I liked
the
it more
fact
than
it's done in a more not coherent, no more. It's spread in a way that okay, there's a lot at the beginning, but after that, you're done.
Pacing's a little better.
Yeah, pacing. Yeah, that's a better. Like pacing is better than Diamonds. Diamonds is. And it's pointless because the entire time, Diamonds has its own problems. On the Majesty's problems are not as ruinous as Diamonds, but there's a little bit of data dumping.
Yeah.
But eventually, he assumes the identity of Hilary Bray. I'm struggling with that name, man.
Think of Renaud Bray.
Renaud Bray, Hilary Bray. Yeah, that's not going to help. We finally. And there's a couple mention. There's a funny mention because he's Sable Basilic and Griffon. All those people gave information about genealogy, and we found out that Walt Disney was remotely descendant of the Disney's family from France. I don't know if that's true, but I thought it was kind of cute.
I don't remember that passage actually.
Like I said, there's a lot of data dumping. And then when you finally meet your favorite character, your favorite Bond girl in the entire book.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to regret having chatted to you that the other night, but I did have a lot of fun. So we're finally off to, we're not at Pays Gloria yet. We're actually a little bit lower down in the mountains, but we do get to meet Irma Bunt.
Irma la not so douce.
Irma la not so douce, as the title, the chapter title goes. Very nice chapter, and her dialogue is so juicy. I love it when she starts explaining, what sort of a research does Comte Charles de Blofeld? Balthazar de Blofeld. What does he do? I just works on the allergies, like it's like the hay fever, and stuff like that. It's very German or very Austrian, perhaps, maybe not necessarily German. Her description is. Funnily enough, it's kind of similar to what's her face, Rosa Klebb. It's kind of she's short, she's ugly.
She
has the fakest smile. I can't remember the words Fleming uses, but she has like the fakest. I don't believe you smile ever. Apparently, Evs, but she smiles a lot when she's meeting Sir Hilary Bray. So they go up. There's a bit of. There's a helicopter ride.
Yes.
Now I'm getting confused between the book.
There's a helicopter ride in the book and the movie.
Mm-hmm. In the book, Bond, he doesn't pretend to be like, I'm not much of a sportsman even when I'm at my best. Like, there's none of that in the book, really. Like, don't they actually talk a little bit about the sports that go on? Because the funny thing about Pays Glory in the book is that it's not just, and I actually kind of like this aspect of the book, it's not just the clinic. They're actually not far from a bar for the public and a ski slopes for the public. So, and Bond actually later on starts thinking about, well, how the hell did Blofeld fund all this stuff? Of course, he's got the bar and the ski slopes. Like, that's probably funding half of it at least. I really like that aspect where it's like, we're not hiding anything. Anybody that can pay to ski here can have fun and ski and grab a drink after. We have nothing to hide. I really like that aspect of the book. It's very clever. I don't know if I like the Pays Gloria of the book more than in the film because I'm so in love with the movie. But I thought the way they're set up in the book is really cool, really smart. If you're going to hide anything, hide it in the public. Yeah.
No, they do. They also mentioned that there's a famous people. There's a mention of an actress, Ursula Andress.
Very fun. Now we're getting meta. We're getting very meta. I liked it. It didn't bother me. I thought it was cute.
I thought it was extremely funny. It didn't ruin anything for me. It gave me a smile. I was like, oh, like I heard that she was mentioned. I forgot it was in this book. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
Fleming was quite taken with her.
Clearly, Pays Gloria is a hot spot for socialites. It's not Tom, Dick, and Jane, class moyenne that can go here. You need a little bit of money, obviously.
Yeah.
Ursula Andress, the film star, is dining there at the top of Pays Gloria. You need a little bit of money to show. But still, the concept is, if you can, it is for the public. Theoretically speaking, it is for the public. So that's a nice setup. I do like that.
And then we meet 10 gorgeous girls.
English girls.
English girls.
They're all from England. So obviously the plot here is to attack a particular country. Wink, wink. They're all a funny description for them. They're good looking. Obviously, it's a Bond book. Nobody's ugly unless you're Rosa Klebb or Irma Bunt. So they're all good looking, and they're all. I don't know if I call them good girls. I don't want to call them simple girls because that's almost like a backhanded compliment or semi-insult. But they're not like super cultivated. But Bond kind of thinks they're charming in their own little way.
They have a redneck quality to them.
Yeah, but it's not super pronounced. That's not the impression I got. Anyways, they're not complete dullards or anything like that. He's kind of charmed by them. And he's certainly charmed by Ruby. Can't remember her last name, but he does grow attached to them to an extent.
No, he has a good time with them.
Oh, we probably should mention, as he's going up to Piz Glory, he does... we completely forgot the fact that Tracy is getting seen by a doctor in the area.
Yeah, she's at Davos, I think. It's in my notes. I think it's
that will go a long way to explaining...
The Lobe at Davos. I see how you put it. Yeah, she's getting
that'll explain something that's kind of sort of super important.
Yeah,
she's in the neighborhood, you know. He thinks of her. He looks down and he thinks of where she might be and stuff like that.
So I'm on top of her.
He is indeed, in more ways than one.
So, we still meet those girls. Like I said, I hate saying red, but the simple is, but they're farmers. But their allergy, that's one thing that puzzles me in the book and in the movie. I don't think they have any allergies. I think I'm not a doctor, but to me it seems that their problem is probably more psychological than physical, because you can't solve an allergy by hypnosis, because they are the treatment. Whatever they get works, but I think that it's sort of probably a traumatizing event they saw, kind of like what's her name in Silence of the Lamb, Clarice. She saw some lambs get slaughtered, so it traumatized her. And I'm guessing she probably did something like that they saw chicken or whatever. There was something that traumatized them and said, "Oh, I'm allergic." You're not allergic. You're just disgusted because of some type of trauma that you saw with the animals.
You could be onto something. I'm not going to entirely disagree. I'm not going to entirely agree either. I guess I'll split the difference. I mean, we alluded to earlier in our review, like, it's such an out there plot that it's at this point where I'm like, is Fleming just like yanking our chain and having fun? Because he's such a detail-oriented guy. He knows his stuff so well. I'm like, is he really come down shine? He doesn't know what he's talking about? Or is he just like, you know what, it's a Bond movie. It's a Bond book.
I have a tremendous fact that's, if you're not aware of that, it's going to blow you. It's about Montreal also. Project MK Ultra. MK Ultra was
Mortal Kombat.
No, that has no relation to Marvel. It's a project that from the 1950s and until I think the early 60s. It's the CIA that tried to, with chemicals, make what you can describe as a Manchurian candidates.
Okay.
And all the experiments that were done illegally in Montreal, in the
Sin City,
the Ravencroft, the building. Ravenscraig building. That's you go on Dr. Penfield. Huh? You go on top. You turn right, and it's one of the first building that you see. Oh, okay. So all turns up cycles. It was leaked. It came out in the 1970s, and some people there was a woman that she was pregnant. She had postpartum depression. They sent her there, and they erased her
successfully.
She has no memories of her life prior to getting.
She's been drugged up to high heaven.
You read the description of the experiment they were going through, but the goal was to create a Manchurian candidate. So
brainwash.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, brainwash.
That's what's going on here.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure If you not
But if
wear
he's
words,
I guess the brainwashing is the front because, hey, I've cured your allergies. Because they're still being provided with these biochemical, as we will learn later on, they're still being provided with these biochemical weapons to destroy which is where I think the book is a little bit, the film is a little bit better, but he has to do, they're obviously paying to be there as patients, I'm assuming they're paying, so he obviously has to do something to make them think that they're allergies, so maybe that's like the whole front, because
they're not allergic, their treatment is for dans la tête, and then we're going to cure you of allergy and also turn you into Manchurian candidate, and you're going to kill all the animals in your country. Merci beaucoup. That's why. Anyway, we'll keep moving because that's a minor. So it's just a theory.
A new bonus episode, like the plot points of Bond, where we don't dislike them, we still think they're cool, but we don't understand them. Like, what's going on here?
Analyzing plot points. Would it work?
We're still having fun, but it's like I don't really get it.
It's a long-winded way of getting to your. C'est compliqué pour rien, I feel.
He sleeps around.
Not as much as in the movie.
No, not as much with the movie.
Okay, I hate saying that, but not as much as the movie. There's a mention of an henchman that had the accident.
Yes. I like that. He wakes up. It's the scream that wakes him up, I think. It's the start of the chapter. Let's get the first line. Bond heard a terrible scream.
Yeah, and he had an accident. Apparently, he tried to molest one of the girls or something.
What a brute!
And, he was disciplined. He threw him down the
bobsled run. That's horrifying.
It's not a quick or painless death.
To show you how, as Bond was thinking about how this guy was liquidated, I came to realize, of course, you idiot, of course he'd be dead. But to show you how little I understand about bobsledding, I was like, how'd he die? Why did he just slide down? Like, no, it's not how that works.
No.
Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned Blofeld.
Oh, yeah. There's
a lot going on in this book.
Plastic surgery.
Oh, yeah, he's thin. He has hair. Well, he had hair in the other book, but he's a little grayer this time.
He went from 280 pounds to 168.
That's crazy.
Can I go on the Blofeld diet? Should I go? What's the Blofeld diet? Because I think I need to go on the Blofeld diet.
I think you're going to have to go find the same plastic surgeon as Blofeld found.
Jesus.
That ain't a diet, bro. Well, I mean, it is. And well, you're not. You're perfectly healthy at 168, but to go from that. Then again, there has been a year between Thunderbolt and Majesty, so.
He doesn't have black hair, he has silver hair.
Yeah. He's a silver fox.
Yeah, he's got high. And the description, like, that's one thing I want.
His voice is different. That's the part. That's the one I don't understand. Contact lens is fine, but the voice, he sounds super cheerful. Although Bond never heard him talk.
Yeah.
In the other book. That's why I'm like, how would Bond know that he sounds different? And for that matter, Bond and Blofeld don't meet in Thunderbolt, the book. So all Bond has is our Identicast. So I'm like, yeah, the Identicast. Oh, what book was that introduced in? I can't remember. For Eyes Only, I think it was.
Goldfinger.
Goldfinger?
Yeah. When he comes back, he's looking for Goldfinger's Identicast when he comes back from Miami.
Okay. I mean, yes, the Identicast. They're obviously using it because it's fairly accurate. But I don't know. It's fun. Again, it's one of those things. I love the book. I had a great time reading it. But that was another one of those little things. Well, how do you really know he looks like what he does in the Identicast?
Also, I mean, it doesn't help to build a strong character of Blofeld because you saw him briefly in a few moments in Thunderbolt, and
it's completely different.
I feel I can never get into his head. I'm like, how does this man think? And it's hard, and he's physically different, and he's not acting the same. So it's
he has to behave differently because he's Balthazar de Beauchamp.
Still, it's still hard to pick his character. Like, you asking me what's the difference between book Blofeld and movie Blofeld?
Not much.
Actually, I was going to say, depending on the book and the movie, none of them are not like he's an enigma. Like, I wouldn't be able to like point at him in a lineup.
It is a funny way for Fleming to tackle that character and that through line from Thunderball, Majesties, and next month we'll talk about You Only Live Twice. It is a funny way to handle that character. Barely mention him in Thunderball, completely change him in Her Majesty's Secret Service, and you do see more of him in Majesty. He's there for quite a while, and then completely change him again. I've only read You Only Live Twice once, but I do remember he is a completely different person. It's just fun, and that's your big baddie for three books.
That's your Joker. And I'm like, no, it's I don't know, man. Blofeld, I never really got a fix on that character, so I'm struggling.
I know. No, I know what you mean. And it's also, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but in the climax, when he and Draco and Draco's men attack Piz Gloria, they start blowing it up, they start shooting around, and in the corner of Bond's eye, Bond can see Blofeld escape via, like, the skeleton, I think they call it. Or no, Blofeld is in a bobsled, but Bond has to take a skeleton, I think.
Yeah.
And, but then again, like, we're not with Blofeld. He's sort of just this image in the front that Bond is trying to catch up with. So it's we don't really get a feel for him very well. And again, he's acting so differently in this book because he's pretending to be Balthazar de Blauchamp.
And he's in a book very briefly. He's not in the book that much. Bond meets him maybe once, twice, and then there's the struggle at the end, and that's it. He shoots. There's the drive-by shooting, and okay, we're done.
God bless Ian Fleming for giving us what he has, but I will say this, it's a bizarre way to create a rivalry. Because by the end, now we're really getting ahead of ourselves. By the end of You Only Live Twice, it's supposed to feel like this, finally he's vanquished. But it's like, yeah, but they didn't meet in Thunderball. He's a completely different person in Majesties. And he's not in Majesties that much, albeit more than in Thunderball. And he's not even in, if memory serves, he's not even in You Only Live Twice that much. He's in You Only Live Twice for like the last 4 or 5 chapters.
Yeah.
So it's just a very bizarre way to build up a rivalry.
It's,
It's like Batman. Batman's worst enemy is the Joker, and we didn't see the Joker for like 50 issues. Then we see him in issue 51 for 2 pages. Then we don't see him for 20 issues, and he's in the last, 10 pages of issue 70, whatever. But he's his mortal enemy.
Yeah, he's just, but because the character of James Bond is killer by design, it's illogical for him to have a recurring arch nemesis. So it's weird that he's in those books. It doesn't make sense.
Well, that I have less of an issue with, if only because Spectre is supposed to be this large apparatus that functions worldwide. We have the we got to get to a comment that made my head I lost my head in laughter. But so the international face of Spectre. So if you're looking for this one guy, one person, it's going to be more difficult. So I don't have a problem with the idea of a recurring arch nemesis. It's just the presentation and the development of this recurring arch nemesis that I'm not 100% convinced with.
But Spectre in the book and the movie are not international. They're a very small operation. I mean, after Thunderball, it's more or less dismantled.
Well, you got some Germans, you got some Bulgars, you got some Germans.
Like
did I say Germans twice?
It was like there were 5 or 6 people in that compound. I don't remember how many people there are by the end of You Only Live Twice, but his operation's shrinking down as
each base blows up.
But by the end of You Only Live Twice, he's got nothing on.
Kind of a one-man show by the end of that book. I mean, we'll get there when we get there, as we like to say. But it's kind of a one-man show by then. So I guess, I'm glad we brought Blofeld up because I think we had to have a conversation about him. And unfortunately, it wasn't the most positive conversation, but I think those points had to be brought up.
We'll put a pin in it. I mean, I want to explore that character. I want to do a special bonus episode.
I know, you've said that, and so do I. In fact, well, actually, no, I think we can probably knock out book and film Blofeld in an hour.
Yeah, I'm very curious about your feelings on the character. So we finally, the Bond. There's a moment, I don't know, I might be moving back and forth, where they play a little game with the.
Yes.
I thought it was kind of funny.
It is fun. Well, he's trying to win over. I like that, actually. The game is cute. It's essentially he takes a drink, a glass with a drink in it, takes a little sheet of like a napkin or paper, what have you. He wets it, if memory serves. He wets it.
Yep.
And with a shilling or whatever it is, they drop it on the wet paper, and whoever's.
So I think they put a sheet of paper, a wet sheet of paper. You put a shilling, and they each burn a part of the wet paper, and
yes,
whenever the shilling falls, the person has to pay
for the drinks.
Exactly.
Which I thought was kind of funny. I thought that was.
You can't play that game in Canada anymore.
No.
Well, you can't smoke in bars.
That's
can't
true.
smoke outside. So.
Candle. I don't know. I do find it funny that they are in a clinic and everybody's taking out their cigarettes. But then again, this was the 60s, so I guess that's how they do things.
That's funny.
It did cross my mind, but again, I'm reading this with a 2018 mentality. But I did like that. Not only was it a cute, entertaining game, but there's a reason why Bond is doing that. He is trying to win over these girls to know their names, their addresses, because he's convinced this is Blofeld. Everybody knows it's Blofeld. So obviously something is going up. Blofeld hasn't just become nice because of it. So these girls are from England. Where are they from in England? And that does become important once it becomes obvious what the ploy is here. This whole bacterial attack.
Yeah, that comes much later in the book than...
True. But Bond is sort of hedging his bets by trying to know their names and where they're from in Britain.
Yeah, he seduces Ruby. I don't remember her last name. I don't know if it's the same in the movie, but he seduces her. He fornicates with her, and
a little bit of fun, a little bit of pop.
That's when the sweet. He has that's when he found out that they're being hypnotized.
Yes.
He finds out, and I think that's when he realized, oh God, I need to get the hell out of here as quickly. That this is where
Well, if the accident wasn't enough already, the hypnotism certainly opens his eyes, so to speak.
There's something.
I love the part. So the hypnotism session goes on, and as it ends on the soundtrack, there's like the clucking of chicken a little bit. I thought that was a nice little point. They do a lot at Piz Gloria, but it's a lot of little things. So even I'm a little hazy on everything that goes on at Piz Gloria, until of course he decides to get the hell out of there.
But before, it's when Sean Campbell shows up.
Oh yes, that's true.
It's very important.
It's incredibly important, and that's pretty different from the film as well, because.
And this is where the book Bond really shines as a character. That there's a colleague of his from another station that has been tracking down Bond. He gets captured by Spectre agents. They bring him to Blofeld and confront Hilary Boy. Blofeld asks him, "Do you know this man?" And Campbell says, "James!" And Bond completely denies knowing this man. And Campbell shuts up because he knows that if Bond is denying knowing them, he's on a very important case. But Bond knows his time's limited. Eventually, they're going to break him. They're probably going to kill him, and he needs to get the hell out of there. So he writes down all the notes of the names of the girl on his passports with using super secret ink, his own PP.
That's right. Talk about a wealth of PPK.
Asks for I remember the drink. He asked for a particular type of liquor because he saw, I'm going to study. Can I have that? It's going to calm my nerves or something. He asked for goggles. He says, "Oh, it's hurting my eyes."
Yeah.
But he's planning to.
Absolutely.
Tonight, I'm leaving.
Absolutely. His Rolex, he starts using as like a knuckle duster or something like that. I like that. Actually.
I like that part when you.
Oh, you know what part I love is when they're in the not the cafe, but they're in the dining room and a visitor. Are you Sir Hilary Bray? Yeah. The Sir Hilary Bray? Don't you know who I am? I'm like, no. I'm his cousin. I'm Sir Hilary Bray. He did. He gone. He did.
I mean, I got the title.
Yeah.
So we have the same name. It's just funny like that.
That's Fleming. He didn't have to do that, but it just like raises those stakes a little bit because this happens in front of Irma Bunt.
Yeah.
So even she starts going like, well, what's going on here?
It's like they're starting to like plan to get him. Like eventually, his plan to like he puts his gear together and he knocks him out. He kills one of them with his own. Like,
I didn't understand that he killed him at first, but it's
depending on you can kill a man with one punch. Depending on like that's why I never want to get into fights.
I guess
like one bad punch and you're dead. Like it doesn't take much. Like humans are very very fragile, little puddles of flesh. You can. Depending on how you fall, it could be as stupid as that. You fall and you break your neck.
So, but what I find fun about the skiing is because he's done a little bit of recon a few chapters ago. Went outside during the day, takes a look at the slopes, takes a look at the maps, a little bit of reconnaissance, takes a look at the skis in the garage, but he hasn't skied in a while. And he starts comparing the style. Again, it's one of these things. It doesn't have to be there, but it does a little bit of insight into Bond. Like, he is a sportsman, but he hasn't skied in a little bit, and he's trying to, I guess, he's going to be in a bit of trouble because he has to get away fast on skis that he's never used for a sport he hasn't done in several years. So he's a little rusty.
Yeah.
He does exercises in his room to get ready, and he eats a lot because he's gonna burn a lot of energy.
He's gonna be on those skis for a long time.
Oh, he's going all the way down, or almost all the way down. Anyways.
Yeah, and it is one of the strongest parts of that book.
It's awesome.
The ski chase, the down the peace slopes, I guess.
Down the pizza. And
there's a lot of things that happen during that chase. There's a couple of henchmen that start chasing him down because after when he killed that henchman and stole his skis, so he's listening to the radio and they're like, I don't know what he says, but I got Englander. So we're gonna get the Englander.
The poor bastards like you and me did read like
Englander because I remember that from the Moonraker. We called him the Englander. So I'm like, okay, so he knows that he was gonna get. They found out, so he has to get head out there as quickly as possible. So he's sight, and it's downhill all the time. Yeah. There's no he doesn't lose a ski like in the movie.
No, but the challenge is the fact that he hasn't done the sport in a long time.
His knees are killing him.
His knees are killing him. His muscles are killing him. He's easy to track because the snow is fresh. It snowed, I think, earlier that day, so he's super easy to track. There's a cable car after him. There are people in skis after him. The flares. I love the description. It's the nighttime. It was like explosion in the sky, which is like the flare. It's also Christmas, so there's like a 10-second moment where he like has a 10-second reprieve. He's brought some liquor with him, has a chug, and wishes himself Merry Christmas before he goes back down. I did like that actually.
And they start throwing grenades at one point. One of the henchmen catches up to him. They start shooting at him. He kills one. I don't remember how, but the part that I really enjoy is when he describes. I think he calls it a train, but I think it's to remove the snow.
Snow fan. I think Fleming calls it a snow fan, which I didn't know. I had to reread. What is he talking about? Oh, he's talking about that thing that shoots snow away to clear a track.
And he jumps us over, and the other henchman.
Turns into paste.
Yeah, and then the snow turned pink.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Leave it to the imagination,
But he does eventually. I love the part where there's the avalanche.
Yeah,
I guess it's quite dramatic.
He goes. The avalanche starts. He can feel the rumble. I love that idea. Like he can feel the ground shaking, and he can hear the rumble, and it's gaining on him. So he thinks that by heading through some woods, he might find some. I mean, lo and behold, it does help. At least in part, it helps him. I guess it shields him to an extent.
Yeah, because the avalanche is slowed by probably stopped by the trees. They show in the movie they show trees that have been damaged, removed by an avalanche.
But that was a bigger avalanche.
Yeah. But he finally, after much struggling, makes it down the mountain. It's almost
He's exhausted.
It's almost midnight. There's carolers. There are people. People are cheering, and he's just tired. I just want to sleep.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted.
But he knows that. I love the part where he says he can't make a scene. He can't be like incredibly aggressive or anything because people will be suspicious, and there are people after him, so he doesn't want to stand out. So he like tries to go along with it. I think there's some weird dance on the ice where it's like, oh, come together now. Well, not in that accent, in some sort of weirdo Swiss accent. I'll come together now, and Bond's like, ugh, okay, fine.
It's a funny sequence, but he's still beat. He sits down, and here comes there's a woman on skis, not skis, ice skates.
Yeah.
Stops in front of him. He looks and like, she seems, I know this person. And it's Tracy.
Thank God.
Yeah.
It's good that she's back in the book because there's a long passage of this book where she's not there for like 100 pages.
She's not a big character in the book, surprisingly. In my mind, like I said, the movie looms large in my memories of this book.
No, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yes, I like Blonde and Blue Eyes as much as the next one. It was like Diana Rigg was in the book for me. It's like I couldn't help it. She's very different this time around. She's not as morose as she was at the start of the book. She has changed. We come to understand a little bit of Bond's doing, a little bit of the clinic's doing, but she's much more. She's much livelier.
Yeah.
She's much more aware this time. And Bond notices that too, that she's not the same person, for the right reasons. She's not the same person he left all those chapters ago.
She takes care of him.
Yeah.
That's a first.
Yeah.
He's completely, she gives her her coat, he hides, she puts her him in her car, and they start escaping. They get chased down by Spectre agents.
I like the bridge part. The bridge part where there's a sign that says, "Oh, go left." So they go left, and Bond's like, "Hey, I got an idea. Stop the car." He walks back, switches the sign, go right. But if you go right, it's like the broken bridge. So the car, not bad. I like it. It's simple, thinking on your feet. Yeah. You're in danger, quick thinking. I do like that. Yeah.
It's easy fix. So they get, and that's where things.
They slow down a little bit all of a sudden. Well, there's the airport, which is where Bond asks Tracy to marry him, and she's ecstatic. Of course I will. We do stick around with Tracy and Bond a little bit.
Yeah.
We do get to, which is important because, we don't want to be in another Casino Royale situation where, like, why are you going to ask this person to marry you? Who is this person? Maybe Fleming... Maybe he understood that and he didn't want to fall into that trap or recognized it. He had maybe made a mistake with Casino Royale because, yes, the book it's one of the longer ones. Even my copy is like 200 and something. I think it's like 247 pages. It's a long one, but I think it needs that chapter or two where it's just Bond and Tracy.
Yeah, you need that.
Otherwise, we're asking the same questions we did near the end of Casino Royale.
No, she's a more fleshed out character, and Fleming has grown as a writer. He's not the same. As I said, The Spy Who Loved Me. As I know, it wasn't well received. I don't know why today, but it showed that he could. That writer that I talked to, she wrote back to me and says, "Yeah, you're actually correct. Fleming got the female mind much better than people gave him credit for." So, you need to flesh out their relationship. You need that. There's a segment that actually, I don't know if I put it in my notes, but there's a segment where he actually has a nightmare, like a
really dressed up version of what their wedding might be.
Yeah,
or if it's not their wedding, some sort of a ball they're at where they're walking up the stairs. And it was weird because the paragraph starts with Bond had a nightmare. And I'm like, ooh, what's going to happen? It's like, oh, he just doesn't want to be like a socialite where he's being shown off by Trace, which kind of made me chuckle. Of course, James Bond wouldn't want that kind of a life. So, yes, for him, that's a nightmare. I did like that.
And I do wonder if it was actually Fleming himself talking.
Maybe.
And then we finally get back to MI6.
And
And
now it's Christmas Day.
yeah, it's Christmas.
Which is very important because in a nice little moment, he goes to, what's the name of M's house? I can't remember.
I didn't put it in my notes.
I don't remember.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
But he goes to M's house, starts explaining why he's there. You know, we got business to attend to, but it is Christmas Day. M is painting.
Yeah, that I actually enjoyed. I've done watercolor on my own, and the watercolor is it's something that takes so much patience. Sometimes you have to wait for the paint to dry.
I figured, yeah.
And it takes patience, and you if you kind of mess up, you're kind of stuck with it, because as when the paint start being absorbed by the paper, it stays. So you have to try and dial it.
That's not what Bob Ross told me. We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents. I'm not sure M is the type of personality that thinks happy accidents.
No, I don't think he is.
But they have Christmas lunch together. I thought that was really sweet. It's he calls him James. You know, there's not much that goes on, and we don't need more to happen. It's, you know, they're very particular characters. They're not very lovey-dovey. They're not very touchy-feely.
Boss. It's his boss.
It's also his boss. But the fact that happens, oh, hi, James, not hi 007, not hi James, and they have Christmas lunch together. I did like that. Oh. M relates some wartime stories. Like I don't know. I sort of got like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
I'd like a chapter. I want to hear some of these stories too. I want this chapter, you know.
It's
Christmas, man.
It's Christmas.
Lighten up, man.
Then there's a part of, he talks about Nero Wolf, but there's a part where it's the following chapter when they start to kind of guess.
Yeah.
Because they don't really know what's Blofeld's endgame, and the Bond didn't stick around to find out. So they're just using the information that Bond was able to scramble on
the towns these girls are at.
Yeah, on his PP notes. And they basically deduce that it's biological warfare. And they talk about hypnosis. And they do mention that they suspected, I don't know if it's based on some fact, or that Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space.
Yes, that was a funny little passage.
Was actually some type of Manchurian candidate. He's very short, by the way. He was extremely short. I think I remember. I read a little bit on him, but he was extremely short person.
I don't know. Space equipment is expensive. You get the shortest people you can find. Less fabric to.
He died horribly, also in a horrible crash accident. He didn't live very long. But still, they deduce that it's BW, biological warfare. Welfare. Warfare. I love biological warfare.
Actually, it's going to be the opposite of welfare. We're taking away everything.
They do mention something that England became more or less self-sufficient during the war, because they had to feed all their soldiers and their people because they were insulated by the German army, and that if Blofeld's plan works, they're going to be effed up for a while.
But the gentleman from the agriculture and fish branch of the government mentioned some newspaper clippings of some recent minor outbreaks.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is, my memory might be hazy on this, but maybe Blofeld heard about that and said, "Oh, that's how I'll attack them," or perhaps it was already a minor attack.
I think that was because they do mention that one of the girls left earlier, so I always assumed that she was beta testing the plan
successfully, no doubt, so, no less. So there you go. It's time to go back to Piz Gloria, which Bond dreads. He knows he has to, but he dreads it. He
has he has an appointment with Marc-Ange Draco, and they eat at Hotel Maison Rouge in France, and that's Strasbourg. But anyway, I took a picture of it, because it actually exists. So if you go to Strasbourg, you can actually go to that restaurant. It's still around.
Very well. If I am in Strasbourg, I will certainly remember La Maison Rouge.
Because
They get to the chopper.
They take the chopper, but before they do, I was puzzled by this part because that's a part in the movie that really makes they're going to give up to Blofeld's demands. Not in this book. In this book, it's because they know it's Switzerland. Basically, he's a war criminal, and there's no extradition.
Yeah.
So they have to take him out illegally. Yeah. So he gets the help of his father-in-law.
Absolutely. Exactly. Which it makes sense. I do like how those pieces of the puzzle fall into place in the book. It's a bit more logical than in the film. We'll get there when we get there.
So they get on an helicopter.
They pretend to be the Red Cross. I like how they're painting the Red Cross logo on the helicopter just to get ready. They're saying they're bringing some sort of what are they bringing? They're pretending they're bringing something to some people in some region who are affected by some problem. I don't remember what they are.
The detail, but they are masquerading as saviors when they're actually going to bring hell to Blofeld.
Have members of the world press on the chopper as well.
Oh, yeah. So they start their assault, but as soon as their assault starts, Bond's on the helicopter and he notices, that's Blofeld.
We don't spend any time at Piz Gloria.
No, Piz Gloria is...
the girls have left. The instructions have been relayed to intercept them at the airport. So, the girls are going to be handled. So they have to handle Blofeld.
And Bond gives chase. It's a decent sequence. It's... I got excited. I'm like, he's going to catch up to him because I didn't remember how it ended. I'm like, does he get stuck in the tree, or is that in the book, or is that just in the movie? So most of the time I was reading this book, I was like, is that a movie, or is that just in the book? He doesn't catch up to him.
He doesn't.
He throws a little, kind of like a pineapple or something, and Bond at the last second says, "Oh my God, it's a grenade." So I have two choices. Either I try and go over it before it blows up in my face, or I try and break. And I think he tries to go over it. It blows up after I think he got through, but it throws
him. Yeah, absolutely.
Throws him, and he crashes. And when he awakens, everything's been taken care of. He walks down the mountain, but Blofeld is nowhere to be found.
Absolutely not. Gets a little bit of help from... ambulances are coming around because obviously there's this massive explosion at the top of the mountain. So obviously that people notice that.
Yeah.
People notice these things.
It's not Christmas anymore.
No, absolutely. So Bond gets a little bit of medical assistance. But where is Blofeld?
Blofeld yells.
He has escaped to live another day.
Doesn't matter. He won't come back. Spectre is taken care of. It's going to be all happy in the world. Yeah. Everyone's going to be happy now.
I agree.
So, Bond meets up with Tracy, and they get married, and they drive off into the sunset.
It's winter, actually. They marry shortly after these events, so it's winter. They're in Germany, I think.
I think they're still. It must be New Year's Eve or something. New Year. Yeah. So everything's all right, and the book ends, and there's no more James Bond books after that.
They live happily ever after.
Of course not.
No, that's not how this book ends. This one, where I remember we talked about how interesting the ending of Moonraker was. It's that, cubed.
Yeah, no, it's quite tragic.
There is a hint that Irma Bunt has been tracking Bond. Fleming alludes to that. There's a paragraph where there's this short, ugly woman across the street that sees Bond go into a building. He doesn't say it's Irma Bunt, but you figure it's her. So they've been tracking him even after the Piz Gloria events. So they know what he's been up to.
Bond thinks he can... It's mentioned in the books when he thinks about it. When he thinks he can still be a spy and have a wife and children. It's all going to work. It makes perfect sense to him. Yeah. I can have both. I can have everything I want. I can still be a spy. Ça marche pas comme ça.
Non. Marche pas comme ça dans la vie. Unfortunately, no, because a car drives... Again, the description doesn't tell you who it is, but you can guess who it is. And unfortunately, shots are fired. Shots fired. Tracy gets it. Tracy gets it. She gets it good. She gets it bad. And that's essentially how the book ends. There's a police patrolman that comes, and Bond, I guess, In a stupor, in a daze of tragedy and emotions, he says, it's okay, she's just resting. I mean, he's not an idiot. He knows what's going on, but he doesn't know how to express himself, so he says something like, she's resting.
She's resting. You see, we got all the time in the world. The young patrolman took a last scared look at the motionless couple, hurried over to the motorcycle, picked up the hand microphone, and began talking gently to the rescue headquarters. That's the last sentence
of the book. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a very grisly end. It certainly propulses the action into You Only Live Twice, which we'll be reading in a few weeks. It certainly makes me much more interested. Not that I wasn't interested in reading You Only Live Twice, but now it's like I want to crack open the book tonight. Kind of almost like one of those effects.
Yeah.
I'll still do my detox. I won't read it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no,
but I can wait. It's okay. But it's a shocker. It's a real shocker. You don't see it coming at all. I mean, but then again, we didn't see the ending of From a Short Love coming.
Yeah, but the ending, it's different.
Because you're taking something away from. It's one thing to take away Bond. It's another thing to take something away from him at the very end of the book.
It's for you guys. From Russia with Love is more like a cliffhanger. This is The Empire Strikes Back.
This is actual tragedy.
It's a downer ending.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah. Where did this come from?
I don't know.
The magic of podcasting and post-recording editing. So yes, I do have the book again. If listeners don't remember, this is James Bond, The Man and His World by Henry Chancellor.
So we're not discussing the year 1963. We're going to do a little bit of review from 1963. So what did people say?
Yeah, so there's a very brief section about what the readers said, and then I'll go to what the critics said at the time. So I'll start with the readers. Frankly, I'm getting a little worried about Bond. Is he losing his grip? Is it a case of fair wear and tear? Is age taking its toll? Another reader. Dear Ian Fleming, quite exceptionally for an author, your profile photograph in today's Daily Express reveals you as the type of man that could experience and imagine the thrillers mentioned in your article. The picture also reveals, in spite of the rugged planes on your face, a kindliness and self-analytical diffidence which does you credit and keeps your books human, if tough. I think that's a super long-winded of saying, I like the book. What the critics said. Solid Fleming, Herald Tribune. James Bond is what every man would like to be and what every woman would like between her sheets. Sunday Times. You can't argue with success, but they just aren't writing bad books like they used to. New York Times.
That's a little bit passive-aggressive.
We all know it's formula action, don't we? But that doesn't keep us from getting a fine surge of adrenaline in our veins from this novel. Miles A. Smith, AP Books and the Arts. I'm not so sure On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the best to date, but certainly I would place it in the first three, which makes it very good indeed. Gillian Kroll, Books of the Month. He's getting a little older. He's starting to look like his middle-aged creator. The time was, in Goldfinger, when he could convert a lifelong lesbian to heterosexuality in a paragraph or two. But now the lady yields only after he makes good her 40 million franc gambling debt. Not quite old Bond. That Fleming's new book will not disappoint his millions of fans, as did the last one, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Wow.
Got to bring that one up.
Drive by.
Yeah, that's the Washington Post. And finally, from the Houston Chronicle, Fleming at his urbanely murderous best, a notable chapter in the saga of James Bond.
Are there any alternate titles? Not all of them have them sometimes.
No, I don't think this has one. No.
So, I mean, I think we both enjoyed the book.
Oh, certainly. I mean, we had a few things. It's unfortunate because I find that most time we spent criticizing the book was about the head villain, which, it's a bit of a bummer. And I stand by what I said. I assume you stand by what you said about Blofeld. But on the whole, it didn't detract from my overall pleasure of the book. It's, funnily enough, we'll get to the film shortly. It's not my favorite book. I think I still like From Russia. I think I still like Moonraker. I think I still like
Casino Royale.
Probably Live and Let Die a little bit more than this one too, funnily enough. But again, you know what? I kind of feel like that last one. That's like, this is really good. You know, I love Moonraker and Russia. This one's really good. That's kind of like
it's one of the better books, but it's gonna be eventually. Then sooner than later, we're gonna have to rate all of the Fleming canon and discuss and argue,
which will be interesting because I haven't read Diamonds Are Forever in a little bit at this point anymore. But
re-listen to your episode just to refresh on your memory. So. That's what I'm going to be doing once we reach that point. So, it's not my favorite, but it's up there. But Fleming shows that he's improved. Like, it's not the most it's probably the best written. I mean, the prose is very good.
It's really solid.
The plot and the characters are not always not necessarily the best, but the way he writes he's on top form.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I felt like we had high praise for The Spy Who Loved Me because of the characterizations, but maybe the prose took a bit of a break. Maybe because he was concentrating on something else for once.
Yes, actually the characterization is very good, but the writing is
good
on par. Yeah.
Whereas now that he's kind of back in his usual element, he's, I guess, re-energized prose-wise. And it's really impressive. I went on to Merriam-Webster.com a couple of times in this book. There's a great one. I can't remember the word now, but something having to do with when you've eaten really bad food. Like there's a word in one of the chapters at the start. It's like, what the heck is that?
Sometimes I'm there's words I'm like, what the heck? And English is not my first language. So.
And I had to go into the dictionary. Yeah. So, very good book. Solid Fleming.
Hey, Edgar, I think we're done.
I think we are done, except for letting the listeners know, both new and old listeners, that where we are, because, we have people everywhere. Oh, you want to do it?
We have people everywhere.
That's not bad, actually. I should let you do that line for now going on. www.thejamesbondcomplex.com. We have a Facebook page. Search for us at the James Bond Complex. A Twitter account at the Bond Complex. An Instagram account for Purdy Pictures, the James Bond Complex. YouTube. Search the James Bond Complex. Subscribe. Give those thumbs up in the lower right-hand corner of the videos. You can subscribe and download us at Google Play. The James Bond Complex, and of course iTunes.
5-star.
Golden Gun Review, please. We are both on Twitter individually. I'm Double O Pop. That's the word double_OH_pop.
I'm at Matoclair with 2 T's.
And just as James Bond is always wont to return, so too with the James Bond Complex return in 1969's on Her Majesty's Secret Service,
starring George Lazenby.
Our friend, George.
Our good friend.
Not answering my email still.
It's weird.
All my phone calls. Toujours un plaisir, les amis. À la prochaine.
À la prochaine. Au revoir.